Football history is filled with legendary managers who've left an indelible mark on the game. But there's one name that stands out not just for his achievements, but for the sheer uniqueness of his approach. Carlo Ancelotti, the only manager in football history to win league titles in all of Europe's top 5 leagues. The man who holds a record for the most Champions League titles, 5 and counting. Yet, when the conversation turns to the greatest managers of all time, his name is often overshadowed by the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, or even Jurgen Klopp. Why is that? Why does a manager with such an insane resume rarely get the recognition he deserves? Some even go as far as to criticize Ancelotti, claiming he doesn't really do anything. But how can that be true? This is a man who's achieved things no other manager has ever done. So, what's the real story behind Carlo Ancelotti? The answer lies in his style, or rather, the lack of a distinct style. Unlike Pep Guardiola, the philosopher of football, known for his intricate tactics and layered playstyles, or Jose Mourinho, the special one, who thrives on discipline and tactical battles, Ancelotti doesn't fit into a neat box. He doesn't have a signature formation or a rigid philosophy, and that's exactly what makes him so special. You see, while other managers are busy drawing up complex tactics and drilling their players into specific systems, Ancelotti does something far more profound. He looks at his team not as a collection of players, but as individuals. He understands their strengths, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their personalities. His genius lies in his ability to adapt, to mold his approach around the players he has, rather than forcing them into a predefined system. It's even joked that Ancelotti doesn't win with tactics, but through the power of love and friendship. And while that might sound like an exaggeration, there's a grain of truth to it. Zlatan Ibrahimovic once said, "Jose Mourinho knows how to treat a footballer, but Carlo Ancelotti knows how to treat a person." And that's the essence of Ancelotti's philosophy. He doesn't just manage players. He connects with them on a human level. Motivation can only take a team so far. Tactics can only win you a few games. But what Ancelotti brings to the table is something far more sustainable, a sense of unity, respect, and genuine care. He creates an environment where players don't just play for trophies or personal glory. They play for each other and for the man who believes in them. So, the next time someone asks, what does Carlo Ancelotti even do? Tell them this. He doesn't just win titles. He builds families. And in the world of football, that might just be the most powerful tactic of all. But let's rewind a bit. To truly understand Carlo Ancelotti's genius, we need to go back to where it all began. Born into humble beginnings in rural Italy, Ancelotti's journey to becoming one of football's greatest managers wasn't paved with stardom or glamour. In fact, as a player, he wasn't a global superstar, but what he lacked in individual brilliance, he made up for with his understanding of the game and his ability to support those around him. During his playing days, Ancelotti was a hard-working midfielder who won 6 Serie A titles and 2 European Cups with AC Milan. He wasn't the one scoring the winning goals or grabbing the headlines. Instead, he was the glue that held the team together, the player who did the dirty work so others could shine. And that selfless mentality would later become the cornerstone of his managerial philosophy. When Ancelotti first stepped into management, he wasn't the adaptable maestro we know today. In fact, he started with a rigid mindset. During his early days at Parma, he made a mistake that he still regrets to this day. He refused to sign Roberto Baggio, one of Italy's greatest players, simply because Baggio didn't fit into preferred 4-4-2 formation. Ancelotti later admitted, "It was a mistake. Today, I would say, Baggio, come to Parma, and we'll figure it out." That moment was a turning point for Ancelotti. It taught him the importance of flexibility. When he moved to Juventus and had Zinedine Zidane in his squad, he realized he couldn't force a player of Zidane's caliber into a rigid system. Instead, he adapted. He built the team around Zidane, giving him the freedom to express himself. And that's when Ancelotti's true managerial genius began to emerge. Fast forward to his time at AC Milan, and we see Ancelotti's philosophy in full flow. Many remember that Milan side as a super team, packed with legends like Paolo Maldini, Andrea Pirlo, Clarence Seedorf, and Kaká. But having a star-studded squad doesn't guarantee success. Just ask any manager who struggled to handle big egos. Ancelotti, however, thrived. One of his most iconic decisions was moving Andrea Pirlo deeper into midfield. Pirlo himself said, "It's like rediscovering your father again. He changed my career." By giving Pirlo the freedom to dictate play from a deeper position, Ancelotti unlocked a new dimension in Milan's game. He also experimented with formations, breaking away from the traditional 4-4-2 to create the famous diamond midfield, which allowed players like Rui Costa and Kaká to flourish. Under Ancelotti, Milan reached 3 Champions League finals in 5 years. If not for Liverpool's miraculous comeback in Istanbul, Ancelotti would have had 3 Champions League titles in a single spell. But even without that third trophy, his ability to manage such a talented squad and keep them performing at the highest level was nothing short of extraordinary. When Ancelotti moved to Chelsea, he brought his unique style to the Premier League. For the first time, many of Chelsea's players experienced a manager who treated them not just as footballers, but as people. John Terry summed it up perfectly. What I really loved about Carlo was his man management. He adapted quickly, and he made you feel like you were part of family. Ancelotti didn't just bark orders from the sidelines. He involved his players in tactical discussions, asking for their input and making them feel valued. That sense of togetherness translated onto the pitch, as Chelsea became the first team in Premier League history to score over 100 goals in a single season. They also won the domestic double, cementing Ancelotti's legacy as one of the game's greats. But perhaps the most telling example of Ancelotti's impact came during his time at Real Madrid. When he arrived, the dressing room was fractured. Relationships between players like Cristiano Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos were strained after the turbulent reign of Jose Mourinho. Ancelotti's first task wasn't to implement a new tactical system. It was to heal the team. He did exactly that. By treating his players with respect and creating an environment of trust, Ancelotti turned a divided squad into a united force. Even Pepe, known for his fiery temperament, acknowledged the change. Under Mourinho, people hated us. But things changed when Ancelotti came in. Ancelotti's ability to connect with players from different cultures and backgrounds is another hallmark of his management style. When Toni Kroos first joined Real Madrid, he mostly kept to himself, speaking only German with teammate Sami Khedira. But Ancelotti encouraged Kroos to interact more with the Spanish-speaking players. Over time, Kroos learned the language, built relationships, and became an integral part of the team. This is the essence of Carlo Ancelotti's philosophy. He doesn't just manage footballers. He builds bonds. He creates an environment where players feel valued, not just for their skills, but for who they are as people. And when players feel that level of trust and respect, they're willing to go the extra mile, not just for themselves, but for their manager and their teammates. As Ancelotti himself once said, "My style is not recognized because I change the style. I take into consideration the characteristics of the players. I don't want to remove anybody's creativity." And that's why, even as football evolves, Carlo Ancelotti remains timeless. Because at the heart of the game, it's not just about tactics or formations. It's about people. And no one understands that better than Don Carlo.